Dragon Riders, Kaze no Kaeru, by Night Dragon Zero. Chris's perspective. How could it be? I asked. There were so many secrets that even you couldn't have known, the Skarmory called Scantrix replied, but they revolve around the lab of your birth. Explain, I demanded. After your father's death in 1983, another man named Xerius carried on his work. However, he had his own funding and broke off from Giovanni's control. He brought your father's research to new heights, attempting the perfect fusion of human and Pokemon. He was part of neither Team Rocket's or Silph's Chimera projects. Chimera Project? The Chimera Project was an experiment to blend human and Pokemon DNA. Both Team Rocket and Silph were rivals in this, but that doesn't relate to us right here. What matters are Professor Xerius and his research. Just how do you know all this anyway? Why? I'll tell you why. Because I was his partner. He betrayed me and did this. Scantrix hissed furiously, jabbing the tips of his wings at himself. Sorry, just thinking about that burns me up. I just nodded and let him continue. Anyway, it was me who helped to provide his funding. Xerius apparently still had links to Team Rocket, and he got me to help do his financial transactions with him, namely connecting the funds. I used my own accounts for this. And you were played out, I muttered. Yes, he suddenly broke up everything, making it look as if I owed TR a huge amount of money. I tried to get back at him, but Xerius's connections had me shot and bought me as one of their research subjects. I could only stare in shock. Just when I thought I'd seen the worst of the human race, I get something completely off my scale. That was 6 years ago. Xerius recently went mad, randomly murdering his own staff and finally killing himself, blowing up his entire lab and his research in the process, and you can guess where that left me. Permanently stuck as you are, I finished. Inwardly, there was a stab at my own heart too. I'd been hoping that there was some way I could be human again. Well, it's no point lamenting over things already done. Now, that brings us to your other queries. Do you want to hear the good one or the bad one first? The bad, I muttered, gritting my teeth. It's about that band on your arm, Scantrix pointed. It means you've been bred. Breed? I screamed. You mean... Mated, yes. I didn't think you were conscious, though. That one was Team Rocket's doing, entirely out of our control. The egg's gone, too, already taken away. You went out for more than 2 weeks, so they had plenty of time to do their dirty deeds. I was trying to think of something violent to say, but I just couldn't get it out. I'm sorry. I know your human side must be outraged. But there's the good news. You seriously don't think I'm here by chance, do you? You said something about a we? I asked. Well, Ghastly and Hypnosis work great on the weak-minded. I'm a spy of sorts, and my leader's planning a jailbreak, so to say, and we'd like you to join in. Just what's in your group? More experimental subjects like yourself? No, Scantrix chuckled. I believe I'm the only one of Xerius' subjects that actually survived. The rest are normal Pokemon, but my leader is someone you should already know. He's the one that pointed me to you in the first place. What kind of Pokemon could do that? I queried, hoping for the best. Could Firestorm or Night Slice have actually found me after all? A Pokemon whose name is Alagard. Night Slice's perspective. I felt a cool, refreshing feeling come over me. You have now received the Water Elemental Forbidden Skill, Disintegration, Isui spoke to me. As water brings life, it can also snatch it away. This move combines Feint Attack and Hydro Pump, allowing you to get in and strike quickly at an opponent's vital points. These techniques, how is it you possess some while others were sealed with stone tablets? I asked. Well, those techniques you got from the stones once belonged to those dragons that were killed in the war, Isui replied. There were 16 of us in total, to represent each of the elements you still have today. The dragon element, of course, belongs to our masters. Other Pokemon, like Euphoria, for instance, attained their status because they were called upon to replace the dragons who'd fallen. I see, I nodded. Our groups had recovered from the earlier battle and had gathered in a circle where Isui had passed on her forbidden technique to me. Ow! Kiwi was moaning, still very sore from where Hazuki had hit him in the fight. Stupid girl! I think she made me impotent. Will you shut up? Isui yelled, whacking him in the shin. It doesn't matter because we're sterile anyway. The rest of us gave them an odd stare. I don't want to know, Kyle sighed. Anyway, you have what you came for, Isui continued, pointing. The exit's up along that path. What? I don't get any tips? I asked. Hey, I did my part. Now you do yours. What goes on after that is none of my business. Yeah, she's right, Kiwi said. And you, the water dragon turned towards her fighting counterpoint, certainly made a fine show of yourself. You've been getting fat since you started eating again. I'm gonna take you back, string you upside down, and use you as a punching bag, and maybe that'll slim you down a little. Isui, there's no need to resort to such drastic— Kiwi was yanked by the scruff of his neck and dragged into the water. Isui was swimming off, but kept both their heads above water. Can we at least try to act civilized in front of our next group we meet? Kiwi moaned. As long as you don't start embarrassing yourself in front of them, Isui snapped back. Just watch me. That's what I'm afraid of. Anyway, he winked, you considered my offer of making it— slap! The rest of us cringed. There you go again, Kiwi. You're doing 1,000 laps around the Whirl Islands, too. No, not that, too. Their voices faded, disappearing off into the dark waters of the underground cavern. Is he gonna be alright? Wondered Riptide. I almost feel sorry for him. Must be tough when your girlfriend's that tough, Luminar added in. I'd say he's pretty much of a hopeless lover, I commented. Isui's pretty cool, though, Hazuki smiled. Everyone stared at her. What? I just happen to think so. But say, are we headed off for something? Yes, we'll have to find out where we are before we can start making plans, I agreed. I crossed my claws in front of my face and shifted back to human form. It took only a flash of green light and a few seconds of rapid switching, much like someone who was using computer graphics to morph my image. Make sure you don't do that in a public place, 'cause it'll probably freak everybody out, Kyle advised. I'll make a note of that, I replied. Oh, Hazuki, I want you to have this. I took off my fox-shaped pendant and handed it to her. Really? She gasped. But I thought you— Take it as my assurance that I'll look after you, I smiled. Just remember to tell me if it starts to act up, okay? Okay, she gave me the thumbs up. Kyle, you're going to have to get into the Pokeball if you don't mind, I said to the human-turned Lapras. I'm fine. Just let me out once in a while, he said, disappearing into a flash of light. Hazuki carefully clipped the Pokeball onto her belt. Come on, I gestured. It's time to go. Chris's perspective. I sprang onto Scantrix, knocking him over and holding my bladed claws at his throat. You expect me to believe that that murderer would have anything good to do with me? I roared. I've been through hell, but I haven't forgotten what he's tried to do in the past. Times change, Scantrix calmly replied, staring me in the eye. And we must change with him. He desires only to have a chat with you. I think that taking up his offer would certainly be better than staying here to die. Besides, I'm sure you know he has no love for Team Rocket either. Still, it is your choice. I considered my options. Scantrix had a reasonable deal. All right, I accept, I growled, letting him up. When's the raid? 0400 hours. That's about 2 hours away. We'd do best to get some rest, he suggested. I hope you're ready for some high action. Action is what I live for, I winked. Hazuki's perspective. The long sloping paths led us up, out of the cavern and into a grassy field. It was still dark, around 4 a.m., and we were glancing around, trying to get our bearings. We seemed to be on an isolated patch of land with a large river nearby. Surrounding us was a low mountain range. Look here, Night Slice pointed. See that building on the other side of the lake? I believe it's the ruins of Alpha Research Center that we read about. I think you're right, I nodded. Let's go take a look. Maybe they can help us. I was leading the group across the field when Night Slice suddenly tackled me, slamming me to the ground. Down, everyone, he hissed. What's going on? I asked. He showed me something he caught in his hand, a dart. A tranquilizer, he noted, turning it over and examining its markings. Team Rockets. They're here. Shh, be quiet. Everyone did as he requested. Night Slice put a hand on his sword and began glancing around. We were hidden amongst the long grass beside a tree near the slope along the mountainside. I waited, heart pounding, for several uneasy moments. All of a sudden, 2 figures in black combat suits leapt down from the slope. Night Slice sprang up, sword in hand, and dispatched one almost immediately. The second one managed to throw a punch in his direction, which caused him to stumble. Ashra lashed out with his vines and knocked the attacker's gun out of his hands, momentarily stunning him. It was enough for Night Slice to spring back up and promptly decapitate the soldier. Night Slice quickly gestured for us to move. We got up and ran, dropping to the ground as a bunch of lights were shone down on our previous location. Damn, how'd they find us? He cursed. Wait there. He crawled back and managed to get his hands on one of the dead soldier's Glock pistols. However, the rockets also spotted him and begun firing. Night Slice rolled for cover behind the tree and returned fire. The light scattered, and the soldiers ducked for cover. "Your fight is admirable, but you can't win," a voice called out. "We know you have the girl. Just give her to us and you can leave without harm." What? Team Rocket was after me? Night Slice held up his hand to his lips, indicating for me to be quiet. "What do scumbags like you want with a kid?" he asked. "She's pretty harmless if you ask me." "She may seem that way," the Rocket Commander replied. "But what she really is a freak of both science and nature. A chimera." What? Ashura had to wrap his vines around my mouth to prevent me from screaming that out. "A cross of both Pokemon and human. Her parents were part of the research team. They reported her embryo as dead and replaced it with a decoy, her mother implanting the real one in herself, and thus bringing her up." I clenched my fists in anger. "And what will you do once you have her?" Night Slice pushed. "That is none of your concern," the voice replied. "You can give her up and leave, or we will take her by force. What is your decision?" "You want to know what my decision is?" Night Slice yelled back. "Fuck off and go to hell!" He sprang out from behind the tree and began firing. I couldn't see what he was shooting at, but considering the cries of pain, he was hitting someone. "You'll pay for that! Kill him!" Night Slice emptied the Glock and tossed it aside, morphing into his Scyther form. His clothes seemed to meld with the transformation, but his backpack and sword remained strapped to his back, now between his wings. "Now!" he hissed. "Shadow image!" Multiple images of him appeared, similar to Double Team, and rushed towards the approaching rockets, who were running and jumping up the slope. The soldiers opened fire, but they couldn't hit the illusions, of course. The thing was, the illusions could hit them, as they quickly found out. The soldiers that were still standing jumped back and released their Pokemon instead. Riptide leapt out and launched his psychic attack against a pair of Victory Bell. Ashura fired his Razor Leaves of an Onyx. Luminar leapt up and electrocuted a Slowbro. Unfortunately, that Thunderbolt lit up the dark area, giving away his position. Two Magneton took the opportunity to attack. The Jolteon was stunned and sent flying. "Luminar!" I cried. My hand clutched the fox-shaped pendant around my neck. "Thunder Shield!" The attack had suddenly come to my mind. Everyone hesitated except for Luminar, as he righted himself in midair and created a barrier of electric energy around himself. The Thunderbolt attacks were absorbed into his shield. "Lightning Reversal!" I commanded. "Feel my fury!" he growled, sending off a huge blast of rolling thunder. That made short work not only of the Magneton, but several other rockets as well. "Hazuki, what was that?" Night Slice gasped. How did you make me do it?" Luminar gasped, equally stunned. "I don't know!" I cried, clutching the pendant. "A Chimera technique," I heard one of the remaining rockets say. "Wait, the pendant! Could it be a Pokemon medal? Or at least an alloy? We have to get it! We'll get a huge reward for this!" "Go away, you bastards!" I screamed, pulling the pendant off and holding it up. "Frozen Orb!" This attack, however, was my own. I threw off a spiked ball of ice from my free hand into the closest of our attackers. As it struck the rocket, it broke into many more sharp blades of ice, impaling several others around. "What the?" I gasped, dropping to my knees. "How?" "Look out!" Night Slice jumped and knocked me into the ground as someone fired his gun. I lost the pendant somewhere in the tall grass. "Run!" he ordered. "But the pendant! Never mind!" He grabbed me in his arms, being careful not to accidentally cut me with his sword-like claws, and ran his bullets sprayed around us. "Stop firing!" someone commanded. "We need the girl alive!" Night Slice raced towards the river, with a Pokemon in tow. I'd failed to notice it before, but it was a raging, fast-moving river, and we plunged right into it.